Hey everyone, it's Pat from Pat's Ever Music, and we're talking about John Mayer. Now, John Mayer has some amazing lead tone. It's not really bright, it's not sort of muffled, it's a little bit dark, it's in between. Definitely, as soon as you hear a solo, to me, it stands out. I go, yes, that is John. Now, John uses a lot of blues scales and things, but today we're talking about tone. Now, John plays a lot of guitars very similar to this. So this is Ernie Ball Music Man Cutlass guitar. It's got 3 single coils, like what John would use. John also favors rosewood fingerboards, maple necks, alder bodies, and generally there's sort of a block underneath the tremolo that sort of blocks it off. But if you don't have single coils, that's absolutely fine, because the whole point of this video is I'll show you how John might get his tone, and then how you can sort of learn from these tips and tricks, try it so you can mimic his, or you can even learn from it and then find your own tone. But that's sort of guitar-wise. Now, amp-wise, John's used so many different amps, from Fender amps, Music Man amps, Dumble amps costing tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars, 2-rock amps, PRS amps, so many different amps. But sort of John's tone always seems to shine through, and I think it's because of a couple different things. Now, if you don't have, $10,000, $100,000 to spend on a Dumble or a 2-rock, that is absolutely fine. What I would suggest you do is run this through a clean amp, or with just a tiny, tiny bit of distortion if you're on a sort of overdrive channel, and I'm going to show you some tips and tricks. So first thing I would be doing is I'd be setting it so that you're on the neck pickup. Now, a lot of John solos are either neck pickup or it's between the front two. So if it was neck pickup and you'd already dialed in the tone, checking out the neck and the middle together, John will sometimes use this setting in melodies that are just panned sort of left and right in the background, not sort of to take focus off the main lead, but they just add sort of extra melodies. Not as quite sort of as rich and as full as just using the neck single coil. But that would be the first thing you would do. You would choose that sort of neck single coil or in between. If you're using a humbucker, that's fine too. Now, depending on your guitar, if it's quite bright, like it's got single coils, the next step is to take the tone and roll it back 1 or 2, depending on how bright your guitar is. So here's with the tone on max, with the tone rolled off a little bit. So it just sort of tames that high end and gives that overall sort of warmer sound that John has. Next thing I suggest is getting some sort of an overdrive or distortion pedal. And although this is, really like a Marshall in a box, that's not what we'd be using it for. So what you'd be using it for is you'd be maxing out the volume. So volume is all the way. You'd be having the gain, set to maybe only 3 or 4, and then the tone again rolled off a little bit. So you'd look at sort of settings more towards that, where you've maxed out the volume, you're only using a little bit of distortion, and then you've tamed those highs again. But depending, if you're using humbuckers and it's not as bright, you could sort of leave it maybe at 12 o'clock. It all depends on what guitar and what pickups you're using. The whole point of using that overdrive pedal is to boost your low output single coils. So if you had high output single coils, it would sound completely different. You'd almost be sort of getting into like a rock territory. But if you've got low output but you're boosting them, it's a different tone. It's a warmer tone. You've rolled the tone back a little so it's taken the high end off. You've boosted the volume all the way out so it's really sort of cleared your guitar to sort of cut through the band and sort of jump out in the mix. And you've added a little bit of distortion. Not enough distortion so that you can play in like an AC/DC covers band, but still just enough so that it's not a clean boost. You're not soloing clean. And the more you sort of boost that amp, the sort of longer the sustain's going to go for, and the more sort of musical it's going to become, just sort of because it's almost compressing in a way, but it's a warm type of compression. So that would be what I would be doing, all of those different steps. And just a quick recap. Step 1, try and use some sort of a guitar with single coil pickups. If it's got a rosewood fretboard, great, you'll get even closer. If it's got a maple neck, you'll get even closer. If it's got an alder body, you'll get even closer. Step 2, using the neck position of whatever guitar you're using. Step 3, rolling the tone back a little bit, sort of making it, cutting that highs a little bit. The next step 4 is to try and use some sort of an overdrive or distortion pedal or volume boost in front of your amp. You're taking a little bit of the tone out, maxing the volume, and a little bit of the gain just to give you that singable distortion. If you have more than one pedal, you're in luck, my friends. Stack those overdrives and you can even boost the boost and you get even more sustain and you get even more sort of musical warmth and compression. Let's check out what it sounds like with no overdrive pedals. With one pedal, and with 2 overdrive pedals. Stacking the overdrives really does help. Now on stage, John has been known to use multiple entire amp rigs at once. He may have a Dumble and a Turok, or he may have a Turok and a Fender, or he might have a Vox going as well. He's got all these different amps, and the idea is they're all sort of building this one cohesive sound. And he's using pedals as boosts as well. So he's blending huge guitar rigs and pedals as well, just to try and make the guitar seem larger than life. So if you're listening to a solo and you think, whoa, how am I ever going to get that sound? Use these tips that you've learned, take little bits and pieces and find your own sound. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Pat, it's great for you to be soloing with a high-end guitar. I don't have a high-end guitar. Am I still going to be able to do that? What's the point? So how we're going to end this video is I'm going to solo using a beginner, intermediate, and sort of a high-end guitar, and you can hear that even, doesn't matter what guitar you've got, with the stacked overdrive sort of metal and rolling the tone off and everything that we discussed, you can still really achieve sort of getting closer and closer down that line of that John Mayer tone. Now, so much tone is in John's fingers, and then there's even a little bit in the picks and strings and cables. Everything sort of adds up to that John tone, but we can certainly get a little bit closer. I've been Pat from Pat Dave Music. I hope you had a good time. If there's an artist you want me to cover, definitely leave a comment below, and I'll see you all again. It's solo time. Bye.